Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the digital textile printing market. My name is Tom Armitage and I'm the Marketing Executive here at WTIN. WTIN provides specialist insight and data-driven intelligence to businesses in the textile and apparel value chain, enabling them to make better decisions faster and gain a competitive advantage. Today's webinar presenters are Mutlu, Chaouch, Orozco and Stephanie Masuwa. Mutlu is the lead analyst in industry digitalization with a background in chemical engineering. She holds 2 master's degrees in technical management and data analytics. Steph is a junior market analyst here at WTIN. She holds an economics bachelor's degree from Sheffield Hallam University. Having previously worked in the healthcare industry as an analyst, Stephanie recently became the junior market analyst of industry digitalization at WTIN, contributing to the digital textiles intelligence channel. Just a few things before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them into the Q&A question box in your Zoom control panel. Questions are not visible to the participants, so it will not be an interruption to your fellow attendees. We will do our best to respond to these at the end. And with that, we will open today's webinar.
Thanks, Tom, for the introduction, and welcome to today's webinar. We will start with an interesting report from another research company to understand the changes in the whole textile industry. I think it is important to see the big picture first, and then we can think about how digital printing technology could benefit from these trends and how it can help the industry's progress. Then we will look at the role and the size of digital printing in this environment, and we will finish our webinar with the latest market figures and our expectations about its future. So let's start with the findings of the Global Textile Industry Outlook. Steph will share the key points from that report.
An annual report by French company Euler Hermes, which looks at the sector risks, suggests that the global textile industry's risk rating is currently on the sensitive spectrum as shown in the graph, meaning there are structural weaknesses and it is an unfavorable outlook. The sector risk rating is based on the evaluation of 4 key determinants, which are demand, profitability, liquidity, and business environment. This risk rating is not only for the digital printing, it's for the whole global textile industry. The sector rating has shifted in the last 2 years from medium to sensitive. A few reasons for this have been illustrated in form of a SWOT analysis, focusing on the strengths and weaknesses. So, the key strengths of the global textile industry include rapid adaptability and efficiency, rise of middle-class population, and according to McKinsey and Company's latest report, the Indian middle class is forecast to expand at 19.4% a year between 2018 and 2022, outpacing China, Mexico, and Brazil. This makes India one of the most attractive consumer market outside the Western world. Also, this emerging middle-class movement is likely to facilitate spend on apparel and hence have a positive impact on the textile industry. Lastly, there is a demand for innovation and quality. This is a positive sign for the industry because it encourages players within the industry to become more innovative and produce high-quality products. On the other hand, there are a few weaknesses within the global textile industry, such as high sensitivity to consumer confidence. This means that when consumer confidence is high, consumers make more purchases. However, inflation dampens consumer confidence and spending. Reliance on low cost of jobs is also too high. Then the US opposition is also likely to impact supply chains for both foreign and local companies within the industry. Lastly, there has been insufficient progress regarding ESG norms. Based on the mentioned strengths and weaknesses, the players within the global textile industry need to be on the lookout for newcomers such as Amazon that are expected to increase competition and depress prices. Competition will be fiercer with a continuing penetration of the market by technology giants such as Amazon, implying loss of market shares for large brands still depending on physical stores. The chart shows Amazon's movements in textile and apparel. One of the major movements on this chart, which is circled, is when Amazon was awarded a patent for an on-demand manufacturing system in April 2017. This new patent targets the apparel business and it enables Amazon to create tailored, efficiently manufactured garments on demand. The manufacturing line under this patent will completely be digital, and the innovation creates a system for rubber-cutting fabrics into any shape, form, or pattern specified in customers' orders, which would encourage interest in buying high-margin items such as custom-made suits or dresses from Amazon's private label brands. The system also includes digital textile printers, which enable quick turnarounds of orders. Players within the global textile industry also need to be on the lookout for implementation of new norms, ESG, that have the potential to be disruptive. This is an important issue for the industry, and here are some examples that are spearheading the implementation of new norms. First example being, in 2018, it was reported that luxury label Burberry burned $37 million worth of goods to stop them from being stolen or sold cheaply. Burning and destroying unsold stock has environmental impact because energy is used in the process, and this contributes to carbon emissions. Also, the Aral Sea, which was once one of the biggest inland seas, has now shrunk by more than 90% of its size over time, mainly because of the rerouting of its source rivers as a result of the human interventions. These human interventions involve building irrigation canals for cotton growing. However, the poorly built canals and gradual increase in industrialization led to the reduction of water levels. Lastly, the most recently devastating explosion earlier this year in March destroyed a major dye intermediates factory in Yangcheng, China, killing more than 60 and injuring an estimated 600 more. These are just a few examples that are contributing to the sensitive rating of the global textile industry outlook. If the industry continues to show such insufficient progress on regulations and other ESG norms, it will have a negative impact on the players within the market.
Thanks, Steph. So until here, Steph highlighted some important topics such as newcomers, new technologies, environmental issues, and so on. And all of these topics fit very well with digital printing. Because when we think about this technology, we know that it brings flexibility to the companies by printing small batches, reducing setup costs, and also brings design freedom. Besides, in regards to environmental impacts, we know that digital printing is an environmental friendly process if we compare it with other printing processes. Having customized products and lower inventory levels, also it helps companies to have less waste. However, at the end of the day, we are talking about only a very small market. If we assume that this chart on the left-hand side of the slide represents the whole textile market, printed fabrics make 10 to 15% of it, and only this small green pie here gives us the share of the digital printed fabrics, which makes the 6% of the total printing market. This is a small market, however, the growth rates show us that it is growing rapidly compared to all other traditional technologies. Now, let's also have a look at the users of this technology. So as you see here, the big share comes from the companies which replace their traditional machines with digital ones or keep their traditional machines but also add a digital machine to increase their capacity. I assume that you are familiar with these companies and they have been in this industry for a long time. And the other group, which I think the most exciting part of this market, is the new businesses. such as designers, new small print houses, and web-to-print businesses. For example, Spoonflower from the US is one of the most popular examples of this market. If you go to their web page, you can choose any design from their portfolio or upload your own design and then choose the fabric type or the product type so that they can print and send it to you. Their business model became very successful, and then they opened another facility in Germany a couple of years ago. And I can give another example, for example, Pixar Printing from Italy, Contrada from UK, Golina from Sweden, and I can easily increase the number of these companies. They are serving to their local market most of the time. But what I want to say is that digital printing is not only coming with being a more environmental friendly application, it is also bringing an opportunity to all these people who haven't had a chance to have their own businesses. Now let's look at the technology side of the market. This first group companies mostly prefer to invest in high-speed industrial machines such as SPG prints, EFI, Vegiani. These kind of machines require high investments, technology know-how, and larger spaces. Compared to that, the companies in the newcomer segment prefer to invest in more affordable small-scale machines such as Mimaki or Epson. And if you look at the market share of these OEMs, as you see here, although there are more than 90 companies in the market, these 8 companies have the highest shares in terms of output volume. As you know, every year we hear new companies entering the market from other industries, for example, ceramics, or these companies launch new models to the market. Therefore, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, these market shares might change. And now I want to share more details and give you some more market figures from our latest reports. This time I tried to show the progress of the market since ITMA 2015. So the market share increased from 3.3% to 6%, which some of you may find a very slow progress compared to, for example, ceramic industry's shift to digital printing. However, the growth rate of digital printing is quite high compared to the traditional printing. And as you see here in this slide, the output volume almost doubled, and by the end of 2018, there were more than 83,000 digital printing machines operating around the world. And here you will see what type of machines has been the drivers of this growth. So the gray pie represents the machine which has production speed between 50 to 350 square meters per hour, and their share increased from 44% to 47%. And I find this change reasonable because now companies can buy a faster machine with the same price they paid for a slower machine 10 years ago. And besides, in the last couple of years, Chinese and some other Asian OEMs have come to market with more reliable, faster, and affordable machines. And the other segment is the light blue pie, which represents the machines with more than 650 square meters per hour production speed. So the driver of this growth is basically the new installations of single-pass technology. If you look at the regions, we will see that Europe and Asia have the highest shares in terms of output volume. However, Asia increased its share to 39% since ITMA 2015. And the driver of this growth is firstly the growing countries such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other small but emerging Southeast Asian countries. Moreover, we have seen many industrial and a good number of single-pass installations, particularly in China and India. Compared to Asia, European market has experienced slowdowns because of the economical issues of Turkey, which made the companies to postpone their investments and put a pressure on the OEMs with regards to prices. Besides, within these regions, Turkey, Italy, China, India, and the US are the key markets for digital printing, and the output volume of these 5 countries make almost half of the global output. And apart from the key countries, since ITMA 2015, we have been observing high growth in these other countries. They are in the targets of most of the global and European OEMs. We have seen installations of industrial machines, and although the size of these markets are still small, their future looks promising. So these are some of our key findings from the latest reports, and now let's have a look at what we are expecting to see until the next ITMA, which will be held in 2023. So the first important topic is the environmental regulations in China and their impacts on the dye availability and, of course, in prices. Some of you may be aware that this year we started to publish a report series on environmental regulations, and Steph has already published 2 reports on this topic. So now she will give some insights about the developments in China.
China's rapid industrialization has come with a fair amount of environmental and social setbacks. As the manufacturing industry has grown, so has the pollution levels. However, China has stepped up its anti-pollution drive. We have seen that Chinese environmental enforcement has surged in frequency and intensity over the past 3 years and continues to do so. Following the conclusion of nationwide 2016 to 2017 inspections, which shocked many businesses into taking enforcement seriously for the first time due to the high number of shutdowns. And during these shutdowns, over 80,000 factories were hit with fines and criminal offenses as a result of their emissions. China enacted an amendment to its water pollution prevention and control law, which included significantly raised fines for illegal discharging of pollutants. Environmental inspection rounds and stricter regulations imposed by China's central government since 2017 has had heartfelt effects across industries. Non-compliant factories involved in highly polluting processes such as printing and dyeing had to halt production, sending ripple effects all the way down the supply chain of foreign companies operating in or doing business with China. The regulations included policies mandating reduced energy consumption, low carbon emissions, and stricter pollution control. This came about as a nation effort to address China's high levels of pollution. The anti-pollution clampdowns have also led to short-term effects such as shortages in intermediate dyes in the textile industry. Reduction in the supply of chemicals from China has also led to unprecedented price hikes. However, this situation has created opportunities for potential markets such as India. As mentioned earlier in my example about the explosion in China, this has resulted in government agencies closing down all chemical production factories surrounding the Tianjin site, which inevitably has led to shortages of other key ingredients and price hikes in the textile industry. This has had a huge impact on the availability of dispersed dyes, and the types of inks that are likely to be impacted the most is digital dispersed dye ink. Speculations seem to suggest that the industry will have to switch to different dispersed dye components to ensure digital dispersed dye sub-ink stays competitive.
Thanks, Steph. So why are we expecting to see the results of these changes in China until the next ITMA? Because based on our research, we know that although there is a shortage in dyes, there hasn't been any price increase in the ink market yet, even in 2019. Therefore, we are expecting to see the change in the coming years. And also, we have already started to hear the impacts of ITMA 2019. It has for sure increased the awareness. We saw more single pass solutions and more total solutions rather than a single printing machine. We heard a lot of new sales during the event as a reflection of these developments. And lastly, until the next ITMA, we are expecting to hear these countries' names more in the market. Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines from Asia, Colombia, El Salvador, and Guatemala from Central America. These countries are becoming new targets of the OEMs. And that's all for today's webinar. Thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We are happy to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mutlu and Steph, for the interesting presentation. We do have some time left to answer some questions, so if you have anything you would like to ask, please feel free to type them into the Q&A question box on your Zoom control panel. If you too enjoyed the webinar, WTIN has also published a more in-depth review of the 2018 digital textile market on its Digital Textile channel. The channel features the Market Tracker, which is an interactive visualization of the global, regional and country stats based on actual sales data, access to presentations from WTIN's digital textile conferences, which are presented by industry experts, the Text Print Selector feature, which is a database of digital textile printers that can be filtered by printer feature or by brand name, and much more. If you're interested in finding out more, please contact the WTIN sales team by emailing sales@wtin.com. I'm now going to pass the mic on to Mutlu, who will handle the Q&A session.
Thanks again, Tom. So we have a couple of questions about environmental regulations. We know that it has been an interesting topic for our market. So one question is about what sort of environmental regulations is applicable to the digital textile industry. So would you like to reply this, Steph?
Yes, sure. So in terms of environmental regulations to be on the lookout for, examples are the ZDHC, which is Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemicals Foundation. Then there's also the REACH regulation, which deals with the registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemical substances. And it applies to all chemical substances used in both the industrial and consumer applications like textile manufacturing. Then there's also the Oikotext 100 standard, as well as the GOT, which is the Global Organic Textile Standard. And just so you know, these regulations will be covered in the subsequent reports of the ongoing environmental regulations series, which we're currently providing for you at WTIN. And part 1 and 2 have already been published. So please do check them out too for more details.
Thanks, Steph. Let's continue with another question, which is again about the environment and how environmental friendly the digital printing process is. So do you think that, so this question is about, do you think digital printing is a greener option as opposed to traditional printing? So what would you like to say about this, Steph?
Okay, so that's a great question. So digital is a greener option. However, much as the digital textile printing process uses less ink, it consumes less energy and has minimal waste, it still has a negative impact on the environment because digital textile printing process emits volatile organic compounds, and the inks used in many cases contain harmful substances that cause complications in humans and harmful to the aquatic life, as water waste from manufacturing is disposed of into rivers and lakes. Again, this has been covered in detail in part 2 of the environmental regulations series.
Thank you, Steph. So there is one question about ITMA 2019, and well, there are a couple of more questions about ITMA, about the new technologies that we observed during this event. So I think my personal opinion is that we saw lots of pigment inks, new products, which I think is very promising for the future of the pigmenting, because it still covers like 2 or maximum 3% of the market yet. And when I talk with the pigment manufacturers, everyone is actually expecting it to reach 5% in a couple of years. So this is a very positive sign for pigment. And at the same time, we saw Nina Coldenhough's transfer paper for pigment printing, which I think, again, a very innovative solution. what else I can say? Like we saw a couple of single pass sales. Like as probably most of you know, like since 2015 ITMA, the single pass entrance to the market was very limited. I can say there are around 60 to 70 single pass machines operating now, and in only one event we saw, I think, around 7 or 8 new sales of single pass machines. This is a very good sign. And again, as I explained in my last slide, I think now the companies, the OEMs, are not only focusing on one printing machine, which only makes the printing. Now the OEMs are trying to give a solution rather than a product. So they try to connect this machine to the processes and give extra abilities to the machines, like remote diagnostic kind of things. These are all positive signs for the future of the market. And so, well, okay, so there is another question, like, because this time we didn't add a forecast of the market. Let me see the question. Okay, so about the future of the market, what we are expecting, what is the future of the pigment printing. So there are a couple of questions around these topics. So if I need to give a number, I can say that, like, in the next 5 years, the compound annual growth rate will be around 15 to 20%. But there are a couple of things which will impact this growth rate. The first one is the pigment inks and then home textile applications, because these two segments are still very limited. And what else I can say? So, for example, the companies will also have an impact on the future of the market. There is one question about Turkish market here, because like we know that Turkey is struggling with economic and political issues, and Brazil as well. So, but these are the very key countries for the market. So if the situations get better in these countries, then we can see some high growth rates, some peaks in our numbers. But at the same time, like pigment ink, these countries, like home textile applications, like all these kind of things are a bit blurred. So I can't easily say that we will see the changes in these areas in the short term. We just need to watch all together to see what is going to happen. And at the same time, the impacts of regulations is very important for the market. So because of dye availability and its impacts to the prices, it is again like a question mark for all the market. No one has increased their prices yet. And actually everyone is waiting for the other companies to start this price increases. No one wants to take the risk now. So we will see how it is going to happen. At least what I know, that in this year, 2019, we didn't see any price increase yet. So maybe it may start in 2020. So I think, do we have time, Tom?
I think we've just about run out of time there. Thank you, Mutlu, and thank you, Steph, for joining me today. It's been a very insightful webinar. And thank you, everyone, for attending. We do appreciate you being here. Had a couple of people ask about receiving a copy of this webinar, and you will receive a copy of this webinar recording tomorrow. Thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you next time.